Hey yo, what's happening everyone? Today we're gonna be looking at posts about what happened at work that made a lot of people quit at once. Cancelled all raises and bonuses for everyone except the CEO, his wife, financial and HR, and his son. Utterly useless IT. In a year where we have record profits and brought in almost double the clients on top of announcing they aren't looking to hire more people when we were already overwhelmed. Good part about it was when the majority of us quit, they lost almost every single client shortly afterwards to their competitors and the company is now defunct. Worked at a Wendy's and one of the regional managers started running a store because they couldn't/wouldn't find new managers to replace the old ones. Well anyways, this guy practically ran the place into the ground. Before he started running the store, most everyone liked working there as it was a good environment. A few months after, a couple of people quit because of him, and one day I roll in at 9 to help open the store and he comes out to my car as soon as I park. I was 15 minutes early and usually just sat in my car until 9 and tells me, "Hey, I need to start early because the free openers just quit on me." We managed to get the store open and had a number of people from other stores help run the place until the people from the next shift came in. A couple days later, I hear the full story of what happened from a co-worker. The regional manager is supposed to be at the store at 7 or so, and the opener is 30 minutes later. He didn't actually show up until 8:30, so when the openers, already pissed at being at work really early and not being on the clock, saw the regional manager roll in and knew it was gonna be an awful shift, all decided that they were done with him and just quit right there. So at least 6 people quit because of him by the time I left the place. Probably more left after me. Worked at a data company. The guys in the sales department freaked around all day. They'd literally be in the parking lot drinking beer and racing RC cars. When it came to handling accounts/clients, they frequently gave away free accounts in order to retain customers and make their own sales numbers look good, and somehow they got away with it. Meanwhile, there were dozens of programmers and database nerds working tirelessly behind the scenes to integrate a bunch of complicated data and make it easy to access via the website. Yearly holiday announcements come around and upper management decides to send the entire sales team to Hawaii for an all-expense-paid vacation. When the furious developers asked why they were just taking the sales team, the confused CEO literally said, "Well, I guess we could ask the sales team to pick one person from each department who helped them the most this year and take them too." The programmers/engineers/database people were livid and walked out in droves. Gee, I wonder why the company tanked. When I was 16, I worked in the confession stand at a minor league baseball stadium. Minimum wage at the time was $5.15 an hour. This job paid $8. And it was always in the evenings, so it was perfect work for a high school student. The only bad thing was our management was terrible. The main manager would throw toddler tantrums about once a shift over stupid bullcrap. Like not ordering enough of a specific beer, she did the ordering, or running out of pre-cut lemons for tea. One night the stadium was running a promotion and it was incredibly busy, easily 2 to 3 times the normal volume of customers. We were all working our asses off handling multiple roles each with absolutely no downtime. Although we all cleaned as we worked, nobody had a chance to do too rough cleaning for the whole shift because of the never-ending horde of hungry baseball fans. The manager showed up 3 to 4 hours late, per usual, and throws the biggest freaking tantrum ever over the unswept floor. Finally, she announces, "Listen up, you lazy freaks. Minimal work gets minimal pay. Everybody is being paid minimum wage tonight because you slobs won't clean up anything." Both of our bartenders and the bar back quit on the spot, which caused a chain reaction. We all took off our aprons and hats to leave. She blocked the exit and was red in the face from screaming, so one of the cooks climbed out of one of the big serving windows where we served customers. So I did the same and most of the staff followed. Bear in mind that this all happened in front of like 200 plus customers. Of course, my final paycheck got lost, so I had to file a wage theft complaint with the Texas Workforce Commission. Oh freaking boy, I worked at Buffalo Wild Wings for a few years as a line cook. 2 different stores, same freaking pay. It was the type of work where you ask for a raise and they scoff and say, yeah, me too. Anyways, I had been pretty dead set on quitting sooner or later. Our kitchen was very small. Most people ended up closing 4 to 5 days a week with doubles on the weekends, while still attending school full-time as it was a college town. On Super Bowl freaking Sunday, a useless co-worker who ducked out in the bathroom most of the shift finally stops showing, and in response the managerial staff delegated closing to my pal Jay. Dude was a freaking delight to be around, hands down the best co-worker ever. Jay had told them that due to being a full-time student, he no longer wanted to be the first in, last out, 4 p.m. to 12 a.m., 1 a.m. on the weekends. They basically told him to go freak himself, and that they don't have any more shifts for him. Immediately, me and one other cook walked to the office and quit on the spot. Buffalo Wild Wings lost 4 cooks on Super Bowl Sunday, leaving them with 7 full-time students on the schedule. It was a managerial shit show. Many years ago in high school, I worked at a movie theater. The place was pretty poorly run from the moment I started there. We never got paid on time and the management was basically a bunch of lazy jackasses who sat in the office talking all day and never actually did any managing. It would have been hard for things to have gotten any worse, but after a couple of months, they brought in new management who seemed to want to make it their personal mission to run the theater as poorly as possible. They first decided to implement a new policy requiring all projectionists to wear ties, despite the fact that projectionists are never seen by the public. Not to mention that tiny little detail that the projectionists worked around giant rapidly spinning objects that a tie could get caught in. Management refused to consider the policy and every single projectionist quit as a result. They then decided that the door people, of which I was one, who were always scheduled 7 days a week, would now only be scheduled on the weekends, and refused to reassign any of us to concessions on the weekdays, so we wouldn't lose hours. As a result, almost every single door person quit, including me. After that, they started imposing impossible cleanliness standards on concessions, things like requiring them to scrape popcorn kernels out of the cracks in the trim behind the popcorn machines. Concessions was there until 5 a.m. every night trying to meet their standards. Most of the concession people quit as a result. By my count, the theater went from a staff of about 50 to a staff of about 12 in 3 weeks. I swung by about a month after I quit and found out the entire management staff had been fired and replaced yet again by an entirely new one. Ones who actually seemed to be running the theater properly. My best guess is that the previous management had been told to whip the theater into shape and that they were idiots who had no idea how to effectively do that. I was hired by the new owners to replace the existing manager. I was under the impression that he was moving on to another job somewhere, so after about 4 days I asked him where he's headed and if he's excited. He just looks blankly at me and says, "I'm not going anywhere. I'm just training you as the assistant manager, right?" The look I gave him must have been a great tip-off because he got up and walked into one of the new owner's offices. After about 30 seconds they were screaming at each other. Then he just storms out of the office, grabs his stuff, gives me the finger and leaves. Over the next few days I'm trying to calm things with the employees. They're not faulting me but now have a very bad taste in their mouths about the new ownership. Over about a 7 to 10 day time period my team shrank from 15 people down to 3. I hobbled along with that the best I could while we tried to hire new people, but the new owners were offering so little we had trouble finding people. After 3 months or so that I started to get fed up and overwhelmed when the owners started to get on me about the missing deadlines. I had it. We were still only at 5 people, 2 of which were brand new and still training. They didn't allow me to refuse work or push deadlines out. They expected the same output as a 15-person team. So after my 3rd day in a row of being berated for missing a deadline that was impossible to make, I quit. Several years ago I worked in a mental health center. We worked primarily with kids. It was time for the center to renew their certification. Instead of keeping up with everything that needed to be done over the course of 5 years, the proper procedures were ignored. In this couple months before recertification, administration made us sit through a ridiculous amount of training on things that would have been covered in training such as HIPAA laws and identifying child abuse. Then came our paperwork. Our center encouraged us to do things that aren't exactly covered by Medicaid or approved through certification. For example, taking kids to the park isn't allowed, but guess where they instructed us to take these kids so they didn't disturb the therapists while working? I had to go back and edit 5 months worth of documents to get rid of the evidence. The kicker was that bathrooms were supposed to have a log of when it was cleaned. An administrator perfectly forged the signatures of multiple employees. I don't think they would have went through that trouble just for a bathroom log. What else were they forging our signatures on? The potential risk of being charged with Medicaid fraud was too high for me. I quit, as did many others. Editing to add, I did report them to the authorities. Shockingly, they are still in business. I did what I had to cover my ass. If you liked this video, make sure to comment, like, share and subscribe to my channel for more.